How's the sound back there? Booming or okay? Thank you. Well, I think we'll get started. Before we do get started, though, I've mentioned this already, but if you haven't done it, you probably want one of these. We're going to have a little vote on priorities at the end, and we're going to vote with stickers. You may want one of these. It's just some contact info if you want to send an email, make a phone call, check out the website, and comment more. And then one of these, which we'll talk about a little more, but it's part of what we're going to be doing tonight. Also, if you want a little desk for your knees, you could take one of these boards, and that may make it a little easier for you. I'll give people just one moment to sit down. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Martin Roush, and I'm a consultant, and I'm helping Montara Water and Sanitary develop a strategic plan. This meeting is meant primarily for public input. The board of directors was invited. There was some kind of issues with the way it was officially legally agendized, and I think we only have Director Catherine Slater-Carter somewhere back there. And we also, I think many of you also know Clemens, who's the general manager of the district. He's going to be serving as microphone man a little later. We also have someone taking notes from the district. So the notes up here are my notes. They're not meant to be complete. If you want to make sure something's communicated at some point and you don't get to say it out loud or you don't see me note it, you can ask me to note it. You can write it on your form or email it to us. I'll talk to you a little bit more about how you can communicate more if by the end of the meeting you haven't said whatever it is you want to say. We'll try to give everyone the maximum amount of time. So I want to maybe just start. Most of the meeting is going to be for you to be talking. You'll be talking 80, 85, 90% of the meeting. But I need about 15 minutes or so to kind of get us set up, and I think the rest of it will be a lot more efficient if I do that. So bear with me for the first few minutes while I provide a little bit of background. And before I get rolling even more, I think most of you saw there's some fantastic looking cookies back there, some water, coffee, maybe tea, restrooms right over here. If you need any of those things, feel free to just grab it anytime. Let me just start by saying, what are we doing here? I think it's pretty obvious what we're doing here, but I'd like to say that this board was insistent that they didn't want to create their strategic plan without hearing from their public. And I know that I'm very grateful that all of you took time from your lives to come out here tonight. I'm sure there was something else you could have been doing, especially on a lovely evening like this. And I know that the board is. They've talked to me repeatedly about how much they wanted to hear from the public. This meeting is a primary opportunity for that. You can communicate anytime via phone or email. We'll give you that contact information. The board also asked me to interview some people. We had a list of about 20, 25 people, including some community leaders, representatives of different local governments around here, some customers, a variety of people that I spent an hour with, each of them, talking to them about the district and its long-range plan. So the board has really made an effort to reach out, and I'm sure they're grateful for all of you coming and spending your time with us here tonight. Here's the agenda, just so you know what we're doing here. We're already through the first two bullets. We're rapidly getting through my part. The next little part, these three bullets, I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes sharing a little bit about what a strategic plan is. I think probably many of you have developed strategic plans of your own in different parts of your lives. Many of you know what it is, but I'd like to share a little bit so we're all on a little bit the same page. It might help you with your input. Then I'm going to take just 5 minutes. We have a little quick photo tour of the district. Again, I know some of you, I've seen some of you, know the district very well, and this will just be repeat for you. But maybe some of you are newer to the community or don't know the district, and I just want to give you a chance to understand a little bit about it, maybe help you with your input again. Finally, we're going to have a long period of probably an hour and 45 minutes, if we want to take that long or so, I have a number of questions. I have a little process to ask you about them and getting each of you to feedback. We'll explain it more. Then some time where you can say anything you want, talk about any topic you want, raise any questions you want. And I am going to close the meeting pretty much on time. We can stray a little bit if it's a very active meeting, but I want to allow the people who want to go to feel like they can leave. If you still have more to say, again, I'll stay. I'm sure Clemens would stay for a while. We'll take your comments, and then you can communicate in other ways later. Any questions up to this point here? Otherwise, we're just moving along the introduction. I might start by just saying, what is the strategic plan? I'll bet many of you, or most of you, or all of you know, but it's a very simple concept, really, which is just to say, instead of just working hard every day and trying to get through what we have to get through, we stop for a period and we say, hey, where do we want to be 5 or 10 or more years from now? Where do we want to aim this district so that we get somewhere? I like this picture. I always use this little picture of this little shell. If this little boat were the district and these people were the board and staff, if you just jumped on a little rowboat like that, a little shell, I guess it's called, or someone's going to correct me, and everyone just worked as hard as they could, the boat may just shudder from all the work. It may go in circles. It may go left and right, but you don't know where it would go no matter how hard you work. So all we're doing in this process is saying, we want this boat, we want this district to get to some particular spot 5 or so years from now. And here's what every single person needs to do to get us there. Here's how we need to coordinate ourselves. And so, part of the final output will have a number of pieces. Here's just a few of the ones I'm sure you're familiar with. We'll ask ourselves, why do we exist? What's our role in this community? Now, the district has a legal reason to exist. It's very clear. But we will look at it again and ask ourselves if it needs refinement. Make sure we all understand it the same way. We'll ask ourselves, what should this be like 5 or 10 years from now? What's happening in our community? And what does the district need to do to be effective 5 or 10 years from now? Then we'll also ask, if we're going to achieve this mission and this vision, what do we need to do? What are the kinds of things we need to do, the challenges we need to overcome? And then finally, all of that will be handed to the staff, and they'll be asked to make a work plan. What actual work needs to be done? What's it going to cost? What kind of resources and skills will it take to do what we're asking? And if we're asking too much, then we'll have to refine. So there's a little process to go back and forth and make sure it's realistic and can be done. What are the topics that we can talk about? We can talk about anything that matters to the district. I can tell you just some of the things we've already talked about are the rate structure and charges. Are our rates as low as they can be? What can we do to keep our costs down? Is the rate structure as fair as it can be? We have a great water supply. How can we protect it over time? How can we make sure we have the right water quality? Will drought or climate change affect us, and what do we need to do? How can we best work with our neighbors to be effective, to save money, and to work well in this mid-coast side area? How do we best communicate with people? We're going to ask you about that too, and all these things. How do we reach out to people so they understand what we're doing and then make sure we hear back? How do we have mechanisms so we can hear from people like we are tonight? And finally, over the long run, if this is going to be a thriving, sustainable community, what needs to be done? What is the role of the district over the long term in making sure it's being as beneficial as it can towards the long-term development? We're getting close to the part where we turn to you. The last thing I want to do is take a little quick tour of the district. And again, I know many of you probably know all this well. It's just a little simple map. The pink is the district, basically from Pacifica on down. This little white area is served with water by the district because when it purchased the private water agency, but I don't think it's officially part of the district.
Is that called Princeton there?
Yeah, I believe so, right?
No, Princeton is still the orange area. This is Maverick's mobile
okay,
home
that's
park.
the mobile home park area.
South of the mobile home park.
Okay,
Big wave sections in there and a portion of the airport.
thank you.
So that's no man's land, or it belongs to GSD or CCWD?
That's important to us to know.
Yeah.
This is on the sanitary side. This is the boundaries of the sanitary district. However, the district purchased a service area that includes the white section. So we will be serving anything, or we are serving portions of the white area, and we will be serving other development that should happen in this area.
Is Big Wave there?
Yes, Big Wave is in that.
Can you put the big wave on the map, please?
So this would be the airport, this would be Big Wave, over here would be Big Wave right now.
Oh, where the point is.
And point the mobile home park is in the pink, show
The
that.
the mobile
Oh,
home
then
Pillar
that-
Ridge is around here.
Okay, then, the water that Big Wave wants is in the white zone. Is that what you're telling me?
Not the water, this is a service area, so we will be serving, we are serving this portion already.
Clemens, let me interrupt for a moment.
I'm not sure what the white part is.
Excuse me, if you don't mind, I'd like to move on. We're going to bring up probably 10 or 15, 20 substantial topics, and there's no way we could answer every question about them. If there are open questions, and let's make sure we note that, what I'm going to suggest that this does is either answer directly to someone, so if you're interested in this topic, you can call back, ask Clemens, write it down, we'll communicate with you. And if we think it's something of general interest, I'm going to recommend that the district communicate with everyone, send a newsletter, a mailer out or something, so we can respond.
But what you have to realize, sir, is that there's a development interested in that white area.
Yes.
And you see, in terms of a paradigm, that's probably at the top of the next two feeds, you know, that's probably second in line to, or even first in line to my concerns. I'm in the fire department, and so I
Excuse
want-
me, if you don't mind, let me move on. Everyone's going to get a chance to state what they think is most important, and I want to be able to do it in an organized way because there's probably at least 50 people here, and we have a lot of things to cover. So I don't want to, I want to hear about this, but we will hear about it at the time when we can talk about it and give everyone a chance, if you don't mind.
Just quickly, that brownish square with the orange dots on it, I didn't hear what you defined it as. Between the purple and the orange is that darker brown square, it looks like.
Right.
Yeah, what is that?
Clement?
I believe that's actually an error. This is still Coast-Side County Water District or Granada Sanitary District.
Is it a big Brussels sprout field there?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the
What's the
airport
white
area?
checkered in the middle, in the purple and the darker purple by the brown in the middle there? That's,
I think that's open space.
See, what the map doesn't have is your territories, like it doesn't have the airport written down there.
No, this is just.
Yeah, this is just to give you a sense of the boundaries.
Where the district is located.
Yes.
Why don't you start a parking lot, put the items down so you can move on? and
Yeah.
everyone loses.
I asked to note those questions, so we are collecting those questions. The district serves about 6,000 people. The services are water, wastewater, solid waste, otherwise known as garbage and sewage, and they provide the services related to those. They're what's called a special district. I think many of you know what it is. It's a form of local government. It's not a city, it's not a county, it's something else that was set up to provide specific services. There's special districts all over the place. You probably know many of them. It's governed by an elected board of directors. All of you, at least all of you who vote, get to help select them, and these are the current board that represents you. There's been a lot of activity in water in recent years. I think many of you know that they bought a private water system. There was a lot of concern about that. Over the years, a lot has been done to upgrade that system. The district is fully self-sufficient with water, which is, as we know, very unusual in California. We hear a lot about that right now with the drought. There was an award a few years ago for low per capita consumption. I think that award really goes to all of you for using water very wisely. The water quality's improved. There's been a lot of facility improvements. There's more work to be done, but I think that's been a source of, I think, pride and advancement for the district. And just briefly, these are really hard to see in the light. Just a lot of the district is hidden basically from view or in corners, and you may not see any of it. There's a couple of recently built big tanks which are important for fire flow and supply during hot days or when power goes off. There's a few pictures of guys working, one in a trench. I believe this is probably a pump station. You can see a power generator in the background, and I don't know what the guys are doing, but there's a lot of activity that goes on every day. It's basically unseen because it's hidden. On the wastewater side, or sewer, there's a system of collection pipelines, 25 miles. There's a number of pump stations to move that sewage up and down hills and around. It goes to a regional treatment plant. 10,000 gallons of your sewage every month goes to the regional treatment plant, which is shared with Granada CSD and Half Moon Bay. And it's effectively working to protect public health and the local environment. This is just a picture of that treatment plant, a portion of it. For those of you who haven't seen it, here's one of their trucks, again, a little hard to see with them working, cleaning the sewer. Again, the idea is just simply there's a lot of activity going on all the time. It's mostly underground and hidden. The district is also responsible for solid waste through a franchise with Recology. I think most of you probably know that, but the district is responsible for that service, make sure that it's at a fair price and what services are provided. They oversee that contract.
Wait, on the last one, what's the and more?
For example, special pickup services, etc.
Commercial cans,
That kind of thing?
Yes.
hazardous waste,
On the Saturday pickup.
Saturday pickup.
yeah, all the miscellaneous
Okay.
services. This is simply a picture. That's, I think, one of their recycling centers, some hazardous waste, just a picture representing it. And a small office of 3 people. You can't see them very well. There's 3 folks in the office, 4 people in the field, and they're responsible for all these services. So I know from talking to them, they're extremely busy and to carry all this out. Any questions about this? And I know, yeah.
Do you have a drop-off for recycled paints and hazardous waste locally here, or do we have to go to Pacifica?
We have to go to Pacifica.
Ace Hardware.
It's next Saturday.
There's a drop-off station in Pacifica, that's correct. But there also can be special pickup arranged with Recology, so it can also just be a phone call to them.
The district will entertain that.
And they'll also shred important paper for you.
That's through the franchise agreement with Recology.
And we'll note the comment about consider a local drop-off. You know, I heard that comment, so we'll grab that. Okay, now we turn to the part where we talk to you. And again, recognizing we have 50 people, we have a lot of topics, we have about 2 hours. Here's how we're going to do it. You each have one of these documents here. And I'm going to start by working our way through each of these sets of questions. I'm going to ask, sometimes just for a show of hands, so we can get a sense of how many people think one thing or another. We're not counting and voting, we're just getting a sense. I'd like everyone to see kind of the sense of the room. On some topics, on most topics, I'm going to ask for at least a couple of people with one opinion or another on a topic. So if some people like something and some dislike something, I'd like to hear from a couple who are happy with it or unhappy or whatever is the case. The goal here is for everyone to hear a little bit of everybody else. It's not to be totally comprehensive. If you want to make sure we hear something that you haven't had a chance to, you can write it down on this and we'll collect it. You can put your name or not, whatever you prefer. If you want us to contact you or communicate about something, you can note that. You can also take this. There's an email address where you can submit additional comments. That goes to my office. I'll collect them and make sure they all get to the board. Again, you can ask a question, you can put a comment, you can request something, whatever you like. You can call directly to the district and talk to Clemens. You can go on their website and check it out. So I understand that what we're not going to be able to do is completely discuss something, settle something, answer everybody's question. We're going to get a sense of your input and then give you a way to get the rest of the input in. Just because it's 2 hours, it's not possible. And so at the very end, I'm going to set aside about 20 minutes for any kind of comment you want. It doesn't have to be on any topic. It can be a question. We may not be able to answer it. If we can't answer it, we'll note it and get back to you. And then again, we'll stay a little bit extra long if you need us to, but otherwise, the AV guys are coming and we need to clean up, so we will close the meeting close to being on time. Any other input or questions about all of that? Otherwise, we'll just get started and we'll be talking to you the rest of the time. All right. The first question is, I have them noted here on the board. You can look through the paper to get a sense of where we're going. We're going to just work our way through them. I'd like to ask, just to start, what do you like or dislike about each of the following services? And what I'd like to do is, again, you'll get a little exercise with your hands. Give you a second to think about water, wastewater, garbage service. You don't have to have an opinion about everything if you're not sure or you don't feel strongly. But I would like to know, generally, how many of you are generally, if you want to share by raising your hands, generally positive about the water service versus generally negative? Okay, a lot of people. And maybe you'll note just sort of generally, you know, the proportions. How many are generally positive about the wastewater sewer service? Again, a lot. How many generally negative? A couple will want to hear from you. And garbage, how many generally positive? How many generally negative?
Only that they got rid of the senior discount.
Okay.
They gave me this giant can and I put out about this much week.
Good. So let's do this. Let's start there. I'd like to hear from, is there any other generally negative or have a negative comment about solid waste? Yeah?
I think they could make the recycling stuff easier.
Okay.
You know, they give you a great big bin, but there's so many things that can't go into it, so you're still doing a lot of stuff.
Clearer instructions or methods
Well,
to it.
actually, ideally, I mean, if you want to look far into the future, I think you should just throw everything in there and let them figure out what's recyclable.
Okay?
I mean,
It's possible. I don't know.
They're doing it now.
How about, yes?
I just wanted to mention that in San Francisco, they do compost.
Uh-huh.
And we do have green waste here, which I'm sure gets recycled, but we don't have compost yet on the coast side, and it'd be great to have that.
Okay, good. Noted.
We have had composting workshops at Montara Water and Sanitary Districts in the past in San Mateo County. Composting is something you can do at home to save water and save a lot. You save a lot, not just water. But that's something that the district could coordinate it with the composting program with San Mateo County. They haven't done it in a long time. I know lots of people that do it, and rather than having the economy of scale of having the ecology do it, I would also encourage people to do it on their own.
There you go. Wait, since I've heard from you and you, is there anyone new?
Yeah, perhaps increase during the high period of the year the pickup for trimmings and that sort of thing. Sometimes
Like
one of the
Christmas
month is not enough, and you know that might make me happy.
Okay, good. I'm going to take these two, and then we'll move on to wastewater and water.
Just briefly, anybody that's interested in composting and getting compost from a recycled facility, as Recology has one, you don't know what people are putting in. You don't know if it's going to have pesticides or something bad that stays in the soil a long time. So I'm a big proponent of backyard composting.
Good. We heard that.
So just to follow up on that, maybe there could be a program where we get educated about bins that are available, and if we could pick them up locally, and maybe there's a discount because of quantity, or some way to encourage people to compost in their backyards.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask to move on to wastewater. Any comments about wastewater?
I'd like to see more oversight of Sewer Authority Mid-Coast-Side because they're a member agency of Sewer Authority Mid-Coast-Side. They've had a lot of managers at Sewer Authority Mid-Coast-Side. The manager that they had not long ago, the first month he was there, he went to 2 golf conferences on our dime.
Okay.
So I would like to see a little more oversight, a little more accountability because
Okay.
there's nobody there.
With waste with our wastewater, my concern, I've been down here for 35 years. My bill is enormous. And we don't flush the toilet every time we use it. So wastewater is a concern of mine because it reflects on my property bill. Because what they do is they measure November, December, January, February as our wastewater months, average it together, and then determine the price that goes on your tax bill. And boy, would I be a happy camper if that bill came down.
Okay, let me invite, if you're standing out there, feel free to come in, or there's some chairs in here. Don't be worried about walking across. That's fine, or stay if you like. One more on wastewater, and then we'll move on to water. Well, there's two, I see. Go ahead.
I have a concern where I am about two things, erosion on the bluffs and some of the wastewater pipes go right along there, and I think it's a constant challenge to keep that from eroding further and from going into the ocean. I also think that a lot of the sewer pipes, especially on my street, break constantly. They're constantly having to dig up the street, and I don't know if there's a better way to use the money to achieve the goals that they need to achieve.
Yeah.
Let me just briefly answer that the sewer pipes that are breaking on your street, which is Weimar, I assume, are owned by the sewer authority in the coast side, not by Montara Water and Sanitary.
Oh, really? So
Okay, so
that's a problem in
their
itself.
agenda
If
then.
there's overlap.
Let me also note that I'm going to suggest that since we're getting so many kind of comments that are really questions partly, I'm going to try to see if we can answer all of them, and maybe they'll end up on the website or in some kind of mailing, since I know there are a lot of open questions we're not fully answering.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to the staff because we had a little backup in our backyard, and boy, they were there, Liberty Square, they fixed the
They're
problem,
great.
and they're terrific people, so my hats off to them.
Nobody minds a compliment. I'm sure Clement is smiling here.
Indoor staff as well as the outdoor.
Okay, let's,
And the wastewater is a sewer bill, right?
yes, wastewater is sewer.
As a well owner, I have been extremely disappointed over the years. I use very little water, and when I lived in Delhi City, my sewer bill was based on my water bill. So I conserve water like crazy, even though I'm on a well. But yet I get this, what I consider a tremendous sewer bill. And I've brought that to Clement's attention before, had him come to my house, check out my thing, said, you guys can come in my property anytime and see what my water usage is, and then you should give me my sewer bill according to that.
Okay.
Nothing's ever happened over the years, and I feel like I'm paying a couple of $100 extra per year just because I'm on a well.
How do they measure it for people on wells?
If you don't mind, I know it's a little bit frustrating. We're going to keep moving. I know that's an important issue to you.
Write it down.
Write it down. We're going to have to get back to you because there's really going to be 100
Yeah,
questions.
we can get back to that question at the end,
Yeah.
because it seems like.
No, she's writing it down.
Yeah, I'm like,
We're talking about thousands of dollars.
let's talk about water just for a minute. Let's have a comment or two about water.
I would like the district to really consider some of the agricultural uses of the water. I mean, our water bill is huge because we have horses and animals on our property. And I know we're not the only people in the back of Montara who are on Montara water who have animals that drink a lot of water every day. It
Good.
doesn't matter how much we can serve in the house. I'm not going to tell the horses they can't drink water.
Right. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Let's just have one more and we'll move to the next topic.
I have some suggestions. One would be a laundry and landscape graywater program where they could take a look and see how much they would save by
Yes, I was
having.
told that would cost about $30,000 to do.
Well, no, you can, look at San Francisco's model, because they have a model, they did a pilot. And you don't have to go the whole shebang, just see what San Mateo County will allow and see how, what
I
you can
did
do
that.
to encourage it. Well, maybe then on the website.
We've got your
Okay,
point.
so the other one was diversify the water supply with water recycling. They've been talking about it at Sewer Authority of the Coast Side for about 30 years, studying it. So they need to really apply for some grants and break ground.
Okay.
It'll take years to get them
Thank
to solve
you.
the problem today.
Let's talk about communication for a few minutes. Again, if you have questions still or comments, you can write them down or contact us. We do want to get to everything. We just can't do it all tonight without being here for 3 days. This is really just one question. These are just examples. Do you feel you know enough about the district? If not, you know, what is it that you're not hearing enough about? We're hearing some of those topics today. I think some of the questions might be missing from that slide. I'm going to ask all the questions at once, and I'll let you pick what you want to respond to. You can see them on your form. What would you like to know more or less about? Where do you get your information about the district? And how would you prefer to get information? You know, through the web, public talks, mailers, email newsletter, whatever social media, whatever you think. So of all those questions, I wonder if just some of you want to comment so we can hear what you're thinking.
They used to have a newsletter, I think it was called The Lens, and I haven't seen one in a while. I wouldn't be objecting if it came via email. It just say your Montara Water and Sanitary District newsletter is now online, go to this link. So you don't have to do all the mailings.
Okay,
It's
good.
to have the information.
There's this next door Montara, which includes Moss Beach as well, which is a great forum. People use it all the time. And I would think that the district would be well served to just tap into it. It's free. There's no expense to it. You don't have to print anything. And it's just a great service. I'd encourage you to do that.
Excellent, thank you.
And I just wanted to suggest, I know that there's work being done in the website, and honestly, I haven't checked it lately, but improving the website. And I'd love to see more history about the district on the website, because this district has such a very interesting history. It would be really great to see that, especially the story about how the people bought the district back from the multinational corporation. So if we could, you know, get that
Okay.
On there. And then email blasts, I cannot say that enough. I don't mind getting info in my bill, that's fine, but if we could also get an email once in a while from the district with a little info about something, it doesn't have to be a whole newsletter, that would be great.
Okay, I'll say right now, for those of you, in case they do have an email thing that they set up, if you write it down now, they'll start having a collection of your emails. That's hard to collect sometimes. Anyone else about the issue of communication? Yep.
I'm sorry, this is kind of a Luddite approach, and I'm all for technology, but honestly, a lot of the information I get is when I go to the post office and I see the hard copy posted. So
Okay.
I would say don't stop that, even if other measures are implemented as well.
All right, good. Luddites are welcome.
I would say that as someone who growled at the district for years over communication issues, they have improved considerably.
Okay. Straight from the growler right here.
No, he wasn't a growler.
I'd like to have a little more information on why one of 5 directors showed tonight.
Yeah, Clemens, you might want to explain because I just learned about it at the last minute.
So the meeting was supposed to be agendized as a special meeting, but it was agendized as a workshop, and that allows only now the attendance of 2 directors. So it was,
It's the Brown Act.
it's the Brown Act that
So
does
who's
not
here?
allow the full quorums, only 2 can attend tonight. And the
You have
coordination
Catherine.
didn't happen, we have directors like that.
And you have Catherine and who else?
We're talking, I didn't hear
From the district.
Catherine.
Catherine. Yeah, there was a little bit of last minute confusion about that. That was a legal issue.
That could have been fixed. That's fixable.
All right, well, let's,
Sorry.
any other comments on this issue of communication? Yeah.
At the risk of being impossible, what about e-bills for both ecology and the water district? So no more mailers.
Okay.
Okay, I can't speak for ecology, but e-bill service will be set up and hopefully starting in August.
Is it only going to be emails?
Essentially, you can review your bill online and pay your bill online.
What about historical bills? Can we look back on and see?
We're just getting the service set up, so I
It'll
can't
only
answer
be
that
going
question.
forward.
Any other communication related topics?
You should probably have the directors of the fire department and the Harbor District stand up, and of the Montara Water and Sanitary District stand up, and MWSD stand up so that people can put a name with a face.
Absolutely, go ahead, are there a lot of?
I'd like to tell you that I'm retired and I'm Jenny McShane and I am a real fighter for you. I'm in my 4th term and I work awfully hard for you and I want you to call me. I can be Jenny at cosi.net.
All right.
And I'll come over to your house and I'll talk to you.
If there's any others, maybe we'll just have a name just to keep things moving.
And she didn't have her position.
What are you retired from? She's on the fire board.
Fire board.
I'm a retired school teacher.
Any other local folks who want to be introduced? I'm sorry, I don't know, otherwise I could have.
Sabrina is huge. She's important.
All right, okay.
And then we have one behind Sabrina. Very
Well,
important.
let's let
Will
folks,
you shoot that, please?
I don't know, go ahead. Pillar Ridge Homeowners Association.
Dave Olson, Vice Chair, Business Community Council, Montara, for many years.
Okay. Any others?
Leonard Warren.
Leonard Warren, Sam Warren, as a director of MWSD, we're a sister agency, and MWSD and MWSD cooperate pretty well, so see what the community concerns are here, maybe get information back to my board.
All right, thank you.
I'm not exactly sure where my comment would play.
Well, go ahead while you're.
Okay, I'm very upset about a bill that I had to pay for a permit. I was having a remodel job there in my home, and I had to pay $415 for the water company to come out and count how many faucets I had in my house.
Okay.
And it took them all 5 minutes. They came back on Friday and recounted, and nothing had changed. And it was on my plans to begin with that nothing was changing, but I had to pay $415.
All right.
And
And if you need more details on that, make sure you communicate again, because obviously you can't deal with the details of that right at the moment. Anything else on communication, and otherwise we'll move on. Okay, let's talk about finance for a minute. And again, maybe we'll just handle this as just one talk about finance. So any of these topics or any related to finance, do you feel the following bills are reasonable and affordable? The 3 different bills, do you feel you get your money's worth? Would you like to know more about any of those services or the money related to them? And we've already talked a little bit about how you'd like to get your information, but you may want to talk about finance information if you have any. So any comments on this, especially if it's someone I haven't heard from yet, just to give as many people a chance as possible? And of course, anyone who wants to comment. Anyone at all want to comment about any of this? Go ahead.
I guess my question would be, are we leveraging, if available, any state or federal or local grant funds that might be available to subsidize or upgrade?
We're always keeping an eye out for anything that we could utilize, and we have utilized grant money in the past. Currently, we're not working with grants, essentially. This fiscal year, we have many grants lined up, but state revolving funds, we working with as well, so very good ones.
Okay, any more finance comments? There was one way in the back, green shirt.
Yeah, I'd like to see an equitable and fair sharing of the costs of financing the system. In the last 10 years or so, you have a situation where one neighbor can pay 10 times more for the bond repayment than the one next to him. Is it possible to fix that in some way?
Okay, I don't know, but we'll note that, and that's an important topic apparently. Anything else?
About water, if you have the question, I'd like to know more about how many new connections we're giving out per year or planning to give out in the future. Because I think that would be like a feather in our cap for this district, because we were on a moratorium for so long. I think that's been kept kind of quiet.
if there's a simple answer, we can hear it. Otherwise, we'll make sure that information gets out at some point.
Also, the tier system.
Excuse me, I think.
Can you repeat the question? Can you repeat the question?
On water connections?
How many water connections
I
is the
think we
district giving
should
out?
publish and be more forthcoming about how many new water connections, be they well transfers onto our system or people building a new house and taking a new water connection, because that's more income for the district.
One moment.
Right. Okay, so the straight answer is we do not have a number because, a clear number on connections, because it's a number that's looked at in gallons that we can issue. So it depends on, we sometimes issue connections, 5/8 connection that has a potential for X amount of gallons per day, and larger connections have larger demands. So we're looking at it in it as essentially gallons per day that can be potentially utilized. That's how our permit with the Coastal Commission is structured. So we cannot give you a precise number. I can tell you it's going to be around 300 connections or so at this point, but we don't know.
That's not breaking out residential and commercial or anything, that's the total.
Exactly.
Okay.
For how long a time? Those are retrofits?
But that includes, yes, well conversions is what you're in. Yes, includes well conversions, and there's no time frame attached to it. But what's attached to it is also certain trigger points that essentially make sure that the district will not run out of water ever again. So, meaning we will not stop issuing connections. We're proactive, and we will increase the source portfolio throughout the time, so there is language in the permit that requires us to take action at certain points.
Okay.
I had a question to add on to that, or maybe a comment for information. The conversions, I know that there was a lot of talk, was it a year and a half, 2 years ago now, about starting to convert wells, and I haven't seen any information on that recently. And I'm wondering, maybe from a financial standpoint, it'd be nice to know how many are being hooked up, but is there going to be any financial incentive to switch?
So essentially information is available on the webpage, so you can just go online and find a very detailed information sheet that shows what it costs and what you need to do. Financial incentive to convert, I'm not quite certain what it is that you're...
It can be pricey to run the pipe to get the permit to get the engineers. My estimate when I looked at it a couple of years ago was about 30 grand. So that's when I say financial incentive, I mean maybe a financial break on some of
I would be surprised if it would be over $20,000, but...
Oh, it's only 20.
All right. Excuse me, folks. We have a question here, brown shirt.
I'd like to come back to the question prior. In the district's annual reports, is there a quantification or a total identified in the report of how many services went in this year that is open to the public?
It's a report that's published monthly in the consent agenda, actually.
Okay. All right. So that would capture the number that may have been issued in that month.
I do go to those meetings, but they get a little dry for the regular person. I think, you should toot your horn, maybe put out a press release quarterly and say, we've had this many residential, this many well conversions, this many commercial, and just so people will know the number. And I'm a realtor, and I tell you, I hear a lot of gossip down on the board meetings that, we're not really giving out permits up here and stuff, and I know that's not true as I go to the meetings, but you need to be more proactive with getting that information out, even to your own people, ratepayers.
Okay. There's a comment back in the back.
Yeah, so on the permit issue, is the district required to issue a permit if the county has approved a development or a new home being built or a new institution? Or does the district have any discretion about whether it's going to
then we will issue a water connection permit.
But my question is, are you required to issue the water permit if the plan is going forward with the county? Or do you have discretion so that you have some control over the kind of development that takes place in the area?
We have a certain discretion over over commercial large connections. However, the short answer is if we have water to serve, we're obligated to serve.
Okay. Anyone else on the issue of finance? There's a comment here.
Yes, I spoke to Clarence like a couple of years ago, again, the price is like what that gentleman said, 20 to 30,000 to convert. And you were gonna look, not you, but the district, or you thought the district might look into, as part of the strategic planning, for us to pay it under our property tax or a different bill. In other words, I don't have 20 or 30,000 to convert. But if it was put in over a plan of 20 years or whatever, that would give you a constant increase of money per year. I was just wondering, did that go anywhere? Was it discussion or what?
It's something that's being considered, and it is actually a topic with the strategic plan right now.
Yes, that is being discussed.
That's fine.
Anything else in the realm of finance, or do we move on? And by the way, if any of you are getting tired of standing, there are chairs in here. You could feel free to come sit down. Just walk up and sit down, no problem. Here's a little more of a general question. If you think about the community into the future, however far you want to think, what are the most important challenges facing the community and the district, or the community challenges that are appropriate to the district, that the district ought to be preparing for? In other words, if they're thinking about the future, what ought they to be concerned about? What should they have on their plate to be preparing for, thinking about, planning for? We've heard a few of those things already. And so, again, some of these may be a little more complex. Feel free to write something down or communicate later. But do you have any thoughts about, here's just a few ideas, changing demographics, the community getting older or younger, affordability, long-term water supply, any other issues, whatever it is that you think? Yes?
I actually think the biggest issue that sort of came up during the last board election is this idea of cooperation / consolidation.
Okay.
And just, let me just give a little bit of a speech.
How about a bitty one?
A very bitty one. The issue becomes, especially with the current drought and the pressure being put by state governments on water and water usage, there'll be a drumbeat to have our reserves share with other local communities. And most of the people here have been here for 10+ years and paid much higher rates because of the takeover of the public water company. And I would love to make sure that there's some kind of a poison pill in there.
Feel free to sit down.
That we're paid back before those assets are taken away. I look at those assets as the ratepayers' assets.
Okay. Good and noted, right? That's a good one. Any others? And we'll come around.
Is there any long-term plans for above-ground storage, such as reservoir, or anything like that?
Any plans for above-ground storage? Maybe a quick answer, but we don't want to get bogged down in a long discussion.
Yes, we hope to construct yet another tank, a 500,000-gallon tank this year.
But not like a lake or...
Okay, no lakes. Where? No. I like to fish, so I just thought I'd have.
I'm going to pick a few people I've heard from less, but I'll get to everybody. Go ahead.
I guess for exploratory purposes, and I'm sure they probably already been done or even considered, but Crystal Spring pipeline, desalinization
Okay.
on the coast, those are just topics I think are worthy of exploration, understanding cost implications.
Okay, good. Did you catch that? That was a little hard to hear. Coming around, we'll come this way.
So during the winter, when we actually do have some rain, hopefully we will continue to, I live on 2nd Street in Montara, and there is a massive amount of water that comes flowing right down the street and over the street sometimes and into people's basements sometimes. sanitized and cleaned for drinking purposes to water my garden. There's no reason why this water runoff can't be collected and then redispersed somehow. And there are federal dollars available to do some of this because my mother-in-law lives in Arizona and they just had like a $250 million operation to reposition some of the runoff there. So it's got to be doable, and it ought to be a long-range goal of the agency or the district to capture this water.
Okay, good. And all we need is 2 million of the 250 million. Coming around, I know there was some hands up and I lost them. Yeah?
So just to reiterate that, more education, and I know there have been some programs through the Resource Conservation District to help citizens who want to do gray water recycling. Not gray water. And in addition to that, I'd like to see the district work cooperatively with the National Park Service. Rancho Corral de Tierra is going to have new trails soon. And so there might be some opportunities to partner up with them for restrooms or drinking water, that sort of thing. So just wanted to mention that as those projects start to come forward. And the last thing is just Granada Sanitary District just became a community services district so that they can offer parks and recreation to their services to their community. And that hasn't been explored yet, and I'm hoping it will be in the strategic planning process. And through that, there might be opportunities to provide more trash, recycling, and pet waste stations on lands that are used for recreation right now for trailheads, things like that. So I just wanted to put that out there.
That was a whole slew of good ideas. There's a whole section on services, so we'll also tie that back to that. Coming around, I know you had a comment.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, I think go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm also kind of going to speak about the so-called collaboration, but speak on the fact that I don't think there's too many people that have been longtime residents and property owners that want to merge with another district. And LAFCO generally comes around a couple times, every 5 years, I think, and tries to push the plan on it. And I recently was at a MWSD meeting where they were talking about intertie between not only North Coast County Water, but CCWD. And it's for emergencies, but once you put the pipe, there's probably going to be pressure for them to take water from our district. And as you mentioned before, we're very self-sufficient here. We don't rely on Crystal Springs water or anything else. So as a property owner, we invested a lot of money in our bond payments and our property tax bill to up our water, buy the water system from the old company. And I don't think a lot of us want to share that with other people unless, we're compensated for all that money that our property taxes paid for.
Noted. More, back. Oh, yes, how about you?
I wanted to say that Sid has a great idea there, because south of us, they're dependent on Hetch Hetchy, and Hetch Hetchy Diane Feinstein has to put about $50 billion into that project. So, yes, I agree with Sid, we should stay independent.
Okay.
Do we have the right, as literally the owners of that, do we have the right to say yes or no with sharing, or is it beyond our control?
No, I don't think you do.
I'm not a lawyer and these things are complex, but I believe you generally do.
I'm here for.
What are you saying, Clemens?
In essence, it would come to a vote, yes.
It would, okay.
Yeah.
And it has previously, right, and been defeated with CCW.
I don't know, it has
10
not.
years ago.
No, it has not.
Years ago, CCWD wanted Montara to join, I think. I'm talking about maybe in the 60s or so.
No, it was later than that. It was
Why didn't do it?
beginning.
Just so people can hear, let me ask if one at a time can talk. I'll recognize each of you so everyone can hear. I think probably in the back they can't hear you. Any of these comments want to make a little louder? Is that it? Have we covered these challenges? Anything else that you want them to consider? Okay.
May I add one more?
Yeah, please.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
A regional management system.
And what does that mean?
Where, very good, where the small entities, other than Half Moon Bay
Mhm.
and their consolidated area, all of these other small entities become one in water, resources, land, and watershed management. The savings would be tremendous because now we don't have 4 or 5 small entities, all of which have their own boards, all of which have their own needs and wants, but instead consolidating it and looking at it in a holistic perspective. Has the board ever considered that? Or this district ever considered introducing?
We'll get you, I see you.
Thank you.
This one.
That's my question.
Yeah, I think that's probably a very complex answer.
I'm not asking for an answer, I'm just telling you a question.
You're well-timed. There's another comment here before we move on, but
Yeah, it relates directly to what the gentleman just was talking about.
then if you hold a moment, let me introduce it. We're right on topic. That was good timing because the next question is, there's been talk, debate, and news about the best way for local government to work in the Mid-Coast side. Do you have any thoughts or comments about the following? So, perfect timing, cooperation and collaboration between agencies, consolidation, mergers, competition and mistrust, anything related to any of these topics. We got one point of view. Let's get the second one.
So I'm all in favor of cooperation and collaboration across the board. That's not a problem. There's more to be lost in consolidating and merging than money. Money is one of the issues that everybody's concerned about because it costs a lot for the water district and for us to have our own supply. But we've owned our house since '86 here in Montara. We lived through citizens' thievery, whatever the name of the company was. Right. And having local control, having a staff that will be responsive, having people that you have some control over is worth the extra few dollars that we have to pay to do it. And I would very strongly encourage them.
I would only answer that as, I'm not suggesting giving up local control, not at all. And to the contrary, I would suggest or ask that one consider this board, considering this input, that we consolidate through a scale of economy, but at the same time retain our control, but even more so with regards to a holistic point. It's very difficult, as commented over here. I'm not suggesting it would be easy, but it would look at the entire coastside in our area as a resource and manage it sort of accordingly. Watershed management, resource management.
All right. Let's see what other people might have to say. In the checkered shirt in the back, yeah.
Economies of scale mean nothing without water resources. The other party does not bring water to the table. Forget about
Okay. I think you had a question, yeah. No.
I'd just like to see the safety issues considered and know that they've been addressed in terms of fire and where the water is and whether or not there are hookups in emergency situations. If there's a huge fire in Half Moon Bay and it spreads up here, we're in a lot more trouble if we can't help them put it out. And I don't know if we have those safety connections or not.
Yes,
Okay.
we do. We do, Fish Mutual Lake. We do have them.
Okay. Point taken, and we'll also respond at some point. Go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
just wanted to add another question on what you were saying. I don't know, if we have the water pressure and all that we should have. I just have no idea.
Okay.
Supposedly now we do. I know a couple of years ago, no.
Clemens, you want to just give a brief answer to that question?
We have the water pressure, I'm not quite sure.
For firefighting.
Yes, we already have it, and we increased the storage last year by 100,000 gallons, and we are hoping to increase it further by 500,000 gallons, but we currently have sufficient storage in the district for firefighting.
She's talking about pressure.
Well, both. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Somehow, some spec builders are getting away with not putting in fire hydrants that they're supposed to put in. So that'd be like a collaboration thing.
Okay, yeah,
That's a Cal Park thing too.
don't know about that. But noted.
It's also the planning commission, planning.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to
From
think
the
they get away with it.
They're over the hill and they don't really pay a lot of
They
attention.
should.
They should, they really should, but they don't.
Okay. Any other comments in the realm of all of this, consolidation, cooperation, competition?
I just want to bring up, somebody mentioned stormwater and runoff, but I don't believe there's any stormwater management on the coast side per se, even though we're unincorporated. I don't think the county's really ready to tackle it. They have in certain little spots, but I don't think there's stormwater drains anywhere throughout the mid-coast.
Okay.
Again, maybe more education from what you were saying, because my next door neighbor, I got these big round barrels and a hose from like, what do you call it on the roof?
The gutters?
The gutters, and it drains there, and then use that for agricultural, for the ground.
Water capture.
Yeah, and maybe some more education along those lines.
Okay, good. Any other comments before we move on? All right. We've already heard a response to some of this, but 2 questions, and let's take them in order. How could the district improve the services it already has? And should the district consider providing new services beyond what it already provides? And if so, what services, and any discussion about that? But let's talk about the first one. We've heard a number of suggestions for improvements to services. You could repeat those, or you could just have any new ones. Any comments about improving the services that exist already?
I just want to mention again that it would be helpful if we had places for public drinking fountains, if we have trailheads and things like that, that Rancho Corral de Tierra might require. So there's some opportunity like that. So if people want to give their dogs some water, that would be helpful.
Okay. Any other?
I was just gonna say that I think our district has improved vastly since I moved here in '88.
Okay, that's nice to hear. Any other improvements? Compliments always welcome, of course.
Nobody else is going to put anything out there. Just back to the whole CSD idea. Is there going to be another place for that to be discussed, or is this?
No, go ahead, right now.
Okay. So if everybody here is familiar, we're not a sanitary district, just voted, did you guys vote yet on that?
Measure G, yes, it passed.
Okay, right, too many elections. So they just voted, the people just voted to pass Measure G, which means that Granada Sanitary District is now going to become a community services district, and that will allow them to offer parks and recreational services. And it's a tremendous opportunity for their community. The costs will be spread out, so it's going to be minimal for the ratepayers, and it'll allow them to offer things that they haven't had before, such as potentially, I'm just going to throw out some ideas, a community center, maybe some playfield opportunities, outdoor exercise opportunities, some things that we don't have right now currently on the mid-coast, and it could be also used towards improving some trail infrastructure, things like that. So I think it would be worth considering, and I believe that this district technically already is a CSD. Am I understanding that right?
I've heard they are.
As a water district, we essentially can manage parks. We are not a community services district at this time, but
Speak up a little, Clement.
have certain abilities to manage parks, yes.
So how could the public weigh in on an interest in that, especially the parents?
I think they're doing it right now. I think it's essentially, if the public comes forward and tells the board in the district that this is something that they're interested in, then the board and the district will become active in finding ways to support parks and maybe even becoming a community services district.
Is this something, this idea something that there could that's just focused on that one topic at a future date?
Yes, and we had agenda items already scheduled to discuss the potentials, but there is always a potential for a special meeting to discuss that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and I would say, we'll get all these hands, that a meeting like this kind of just surfaces lots of little bits and pieces of issues, but if the district does tackle anything, substantial like that, of course it would need to have focused communication where you could work something out a little more heavily. Let me just come around in a circle here, just for simplicity. I think you're kind of the start.
Yeah, so as far as new services, one of the problems that we have, at least in Montara, I don't know about Moss Beach, one of the problems that we have is cellular coverage. I mean, it's spotty at best. It seems to me that it might be you're a utility or we're a utility anyway. So why not just create our own, not cellular service, but Wi-Fi, maybe partner up with a Google or somebody else that can help finance some of that and do a fiber optic or put in some other capabilities that enable us to have a 21st century ability to talk to each other.
Okay, there you go. That's another one. I haven't heard from you, so let's come backwards, and we'll keep coming. We won't forget you.
Just, I wanted to find out a point of clarification. One of my neighbors was saying that recently that her green waste was thrown in with her trash.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to just get clarification on exactly what's Recology's. I mean, are they supposed to be separate, and are they supposed to be picked up by two separate trucks, or what's the deal with that?
There's sometimes confusion because the same truck collects first the regular garbage, runs it all over to Ox Mountain,
Okay.
comes back to pick up the green waste, and that's when folks think that it is actually the same truck, and it is the same truck, but the load is different.
Okay.
Right there.
I thought I know her, and I think she saw them put the green waste in at the same time that they did this.
Reported.
Well, we cheated this, that's what happens.
Okay. Yeah, I don't.
Can't answer that right now.
Note taken. Maybe that can be looked into. I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
In terms of parks, Caltrans has a devil's diagram right away that goes through Montara and Moss Beach. It's been in the county LCP for years as a linear park, and the county's never done anything about it. I think if our district could provide parks, that would be an obvious acquisition and a very valuable addition to our park system, which we don't have.
Good. Thank you. Yes.
Energy.
Energy. Just look into being an energy provider. Okay. Very.
Quickly, on the garbage, I think it depends on if it's a new guy, because I have a separate bin for my goat food, and one day I saw that they emptied it. It was full of, alfalfa. So now I have it lashed to the fence so they can't take it quickly, but.
You'll see your whole fence come
right.
up.
I did call and complain, and they said it was probably a new guy on the route. But back to parks for just a minute. I really think that the mid-coast, mostly up here in the north, we do have a lot of, I don't know what you call them, state parks and national parks, but we really don't have a lot of community parks except for Moss Beach Park now. It's run by the county, but I would like to see, pocket parks or small little places dotted throughout the community if possible. But the last thing I wanted to bring up is if we became a community service district, maybe Scott can go into this a little bit. I think it helps with our budget because I believe Sacramento used to take some of our money out of our budget, and this would protect more of that, I believe. Is that right, Scott?
I'm just here to listen tonight, but I'm really, I'm going to try
Maybe Clemens knows.
I'm going to try to be religious about just listening tonight, but feel free to talk to me afterwards.
All right.
So, yes, this is correct. This is a way to protect property taxes, absolutely.
Yes.
So I would like to see some kind of structure for very close collaboration between Granada Sanitary and Montara Sanitary, not the water portion. Sanitary portion, it seems like they could really partner well there, and also with Parks. We bring in Parks Power from Montara and work with Granada Sanitary. Then we've got the mid-coast. We're together here on this for Parks and our half the sewer. And let's have a community center. Let's have a mid-coast community center.
Okay, nice idea. Before I get to you, I think was there someone over here?
Well, I was just going to say, for me personally, and I don't know about others who are not here, my first priority is that the quality of the water remain really good, and research money, making sure you're doing all the best testing on the water, because we won't be here much longer if you don't. And the quantity, so the quality and quantity comes first, then all this other stuff, parks and whatever. And since we've been behind the 8 ball for so many years, I think we might be able to talk really well about this in about another 10 years, but right now, improving our system and making sure the water is safe, enough and safe.
Okay, thank you. Simple comment, yes?
Just back to the community center idea, I've heard that talked about a little bit in the Granada Sanitary District area, and I could see where it might make sense to combine efforts with the MWSD and GSD in relation to a community center project, although it'd be great to have two. But, and I'd love to see a community garden as part of that project. But I would want to be careful if we start consolidating up our special districts, it may make it a lot easier for LAFCO to try to lump us in with Half Moon Bay. And I don't know what exactly how that might work, but I would just want to be careful about that, because I think that my feeling is from talking to my neighbors, it seems that everybody really prefers not to be part of the city of Half Moon Bay. So I just want to voice that concern.
Okay, yes?
Speaking of community center, the place to have the MCC, Midcoast Community Council meetings, why not at Montara Sanitary District? There's a big building there, we never had any notion that these guys are open to have public meetings there. Why?
We've been open about it. We have not been approached by the Midcoast Community Council. Our boardroom is great, it's an open building, but it is fairly small.
Yeah, you can barely walk through it. It's just a table.
There have been public meetings 10, 20 years ago, so I'm familiar with this layout. I think it would be perfect for accommodating MCC meetings, but at least too small.
Okay, noted. Other comments? Yeah.
Just while we're on the topic of the building, it is a pretty interesting building. I don't know if it's a historic building, but it would be nice if that building were renovated to some degree at some point, because it's, I don't know if you guys have been in it, but it's not very public friendly, and it's a little bit dilapidated, like especially in the boardroom and stuff. So, sorry, I don't mean to insult you guys, but
That's just our cheap furniture.
Maybe you could just make it a little bit nicer, I don't know.
Okay, noted. Other comments along these lines, or we'll move on to the next topic? All right. Looking to the future, we're going to do this question a little differently, and as part of it, if you have your little voting stickers, there will be a moment of chaos when we vote. I'd like each of you to think, and it would be nice if you could each do this. If you were granted power over the district, if you were emperor, king, queen, god, whatever would be appropriate for you, and you could change 3 things, or keep 3 things the same, and I would like you to limit it to 3, and it would be great if you even had 3. The 3 is washed out by the sun. But this gets to priorities. We've heard, probably 200 ideas tonight, 200 thoughts. I'd like to hear what you think is most important. If you really only could pick three things to either keep the same or change, what would they be? I'm going to write them down, not in sentences, just in like labels, see if they all fit here, and then ask each of you to get up. It will cause a moment of chaos. And then vote. And the way you vote is, if you like one idea so much you want to put all your votes on one idea, you can do it, or spread them across two ideas, or put one on each idea, whatever you want. And that will give us just a little visual clue about what's most important. We've heard a lot of things, and obviously it's a tiny district. We heard, I think, one thing, Clemens would tell me if he could talk honestly and privately with me. There's 7 people there. They have to keep the water going, the sewage running, the garbage happening. There's politics, there's money, there's regulations, there's a lot of things happening, and so you just can't do everything. So let's hear what's most important. So I'm going to ask each of you to just think for a minute, and then I'm going to ask for you to call out some things. No need to repeat it. If someone says the most important thing is to have shiny trucks, we'll write it once and don't repeat it. But, you know, so take just 5 seconds. I'll give you a few moments, 10 seconds, 20 seconds to think about it. That's all you get. You're a god after all, or a king, or whatever. You know what you think. We'll just give you 5 seconds. And if you're still thinking, that's fine. Okay, here's one.
All three or not?
Let's just hear one. Okay, all three.
Right. I'll just say keep water quality, develop the Parks Community Service District, and no water district consolidation without fair compensation to property owners. You can write that down. I'll read it again.
How about just no consolidation?
That's good, but we might get pushed into it.
What was the second one? Parks.
Yeah, develop our community service district or Parks Powers.
Okay, how about another one?
How about water quality and quantity? Since they're kind of related.
Quantity, yeah.
We'll separate them just to see.
The competency of the staff is very good.
Keep it.
Keep it.
Keep staff. Jobs for life. All right.
Future water supply.
Yeah, continued improvements in aging water supply infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
Oh, infrastructure, okay.
Infrastructure.
Water, infrastructure, improve, or keep improving.
Would you separate consolidation from compensation? Because some of us don't want to consolidate no matter what.
Thank you. Well, I agree, but
right.
if we could.
No consolidation? Okay, that's what I wrote.
Yeah, so water runoff utilization?
Okay,
Stormwater.
stormwater use. Is that right?
Whether it's storm or whatever.
Yeah, it shouldn't be running off otherwise, I don't think.
Water conservation measures and education.
Okay, conservation. I'll just put conservation and that anything related to it, right? Programs, education, is that good enough?
Yep.
Disaster prep. Okay,
Lower or competitive water rates.
lower rates. You're the king after all. All right. We're being focused here.
Okay, bring back senior discount for garbage. Or for low use, I mean, have a
You can get a
smaller.
smaller bin, I think.
They won't let you. Yeah, I have the smallest and it's enormous.
We have a discount for,
Poor people.
that's for poor people essentially. If you
That's
need
not
it, you get a
fair.
discount, it's not going to be.
But usually seniors don't generate as much.
Excuse me, we're getting some mumbling, and I know people get a little antsy, but just so we can hear each other.
I know the water supply is safe, but just the whole drought management, how it affects us.
We'll put drought management
We could do.
separately.
Are we under the governor's requirement to?
Yes.
No.
Oh, there you go. No.
Let's have a different answer.
Yeah, no, we're not.
Yes, the answer is no. Sorry, I shouldn't have answered.
These were someone else's ideas, but I thought were interesting. Free Wi-Fi, or let's not call it free, just call it Wi-Fi.
Municipal.
Accessible.
Yes, thank you. Did you hear that? All right.
Wi-Fi, broadband,
Cellular service.
municipal broadband.
Cell service.
Cell tower.
Okay,
And then the other one was energy, power.
now on Wi-Fi, broadband, does someone want to separate cell towers specifically from this concept here?
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
Communication,
meaning,
just constant communication with your customers.
okay,
Keeping
Outreach.
accountable for costs, all costs, not just lower rates.
cost control. Can I put cost control with lower rates, or is it a separate topic?
Kind of separate.
So are you more talking about governance?
Yeah, basically everything. So we have more accountability.
More accountability. Do you want that under outreach since it's your here?
Got the pen.
You got the voice. I'm gonna put governance quality, and you can interpret it. Remember, since this is just kind of quick, if you have a specific point and I'm not catching it, write it down, call, email us, whatever, so we can get your point.
Does quantity mean water development? Is water development what that means?
Yes, ensure that there's ample water supply. And I'll put supply.
Well, up here you have water infrastructure, but maybe, I don't know how our sewer lines are doing, but that's an issue too.
We'll put one over here.
Because of earthquakes and stuff like that.
Water and sewer both.
I'm going to put sewer system, so I don't have to spell infrastructure in public. I might stumble.
Well, just because it's not there, trash. I mean, I don't know what our landfill looks like, or when we're going to reach maximum capacity, or any of that. I mean, some kind of consideration about
Sustainability of trash, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, where's it going if we run out of space?
Okay. You get one more chance, and then we're going to move on and vote.
Compost?
Compost programs.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so here's what I'd like you to do. There will be chaos. Don't trip or cause any legal problems. There is a cord right here, and there's a tablecloth here, so be careful. Come on up with your tickets, your stickers, and you can array them. Like, if you really think this is important, put them all on one, or you make the importance. Yeah, here, you can have this one. You get the whole thing. Don't cheat on stickers, people. Oh, Clemens, would you grab the stickers and bring them in here? Oh, someone brought them in. Go ahead. Thank you. Say it again. Oh, well, I think we missed it, but you can write the note somewhere. I'll let you call it out. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. No, I've had a lot of practice. Yeah, good. Green dots.
The no consolidation spot. I know.
Oh, Jimmy. Good job. Squeeze on by.
You gotta watch it. You never know what's gonna happen.
I don't think I need to add my thoughts to that.
I want to thank you for doing a great job. You're doing a real good job. It's not an easy one. Everything's like committee here. Where's
Yep. Yeah. Will you just write it down? Actually, you know what? Do this for me. Email the request to there. Yeah, that's me, and I'll make sure that just email me. I'm Martin. You can put Martin on there, and just tell me where you want it, and we'll send it to you. It's just, yeah. Email me tomorrow because I'm going to have all these notes and they get lost. It'll be more reliable. All right, folks. I hear laughter, which means it's time to get serious. I was going to summarize this, but if you're done, you can leave, you know.
Quick, let's get these on here. Hey, doing okay. It's good.
Okay.
Lower rates is not.
I tell you what, if you email it or write it down, I won't remember.
Come here, Rusty. I gotta talk to you outside.
All right, folks. Can I have you for one more minute in here? Unless you're leaving, just go ahead and leave. But if you want to, we'll have a quick closing.
I don't know what to do with my last year. Since I put some down, so I'm going to do it either way. We're going to get a plan of I'm working on it already. No,
It's kind of like that. All right, folks. One more minute here. I'll have to turn up the bass on the speakers, and then you'll all be unhappy. All right, one moment. Even if you're standing up, can we have your attention just for a minute? Folks, okay, what's left, we officially have a little bit of time. Now would be the time. We might just want to look for your own interest. Wi-Fi had a huge number of votes. I'm not counting. We'll count later. No consolidation had a lot of votes. Parks, water quantity, water infrastructure. Those were kind of the big ones. You can see what they are. We'll count them and report at some point what you said. Since so many of you got up, it's like a college party. You guys cut you loose for 1 second. You guys are out of here. If you'd like to stay and you have any more comments, we're still here. If you're done for the night and you've done your part, feel free to mingle quietly. Otherwise, if you kind of step outdoors or something so we don't have a mob mumble while people are trying to talk. And so, again, if you feel like going, of course, feel free. We've heard from you. I'd like to encourage anybody to communicate if you have more to say or you want to make sure we get an exact point. And now, if anybody has anything else, now's the time. Comment about anything, whatever you'd like. Well, let's hear someone who hasn't spoken as much first.
I'd just be interested if we know how much of the water goes to agriculture versus other things, and if it's through the district or not.
Okay, how much water goes to agriculture?
I can't speak about the entire mixed coast. I can speak about this district, and we do not have agricultural connections, so for us it's zero. But of course there is agriculture on the coast side, and those are mainly depending on own sources. They farmers that have water rights.
Their own wells, or?
Yes, they have wells, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
There's some agricultural use in Coastal County Water District, so they have some users that grow plants.
All right. Over
How
here.
about Montara Creek? Are there ag water rights out of that creek for like the straw flower farm?
Yes.
In addition, and the district is also drawing out of that creek. So.
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Any other comments, questions?
Don't take offense, but this is usually an opinionated community, and I think you went a little fast and cut people off in the very beginning, and I kind of got a bad feeling about that. I don't know about everybody else. So.
Okay. As it turned out, I think you're right.
And it did slow down at the end, too. But
Yeah.
you let more people give their opinions.
I'll agree with you there.
I just wanted to give a compliment compared to the recent Harbor District Strategic Planning meeting. This is a big success, so I think you did a great job.
Thank you. It's not easy. I was expecting you guys to be a lot more talkative, so I did kind of push it at the beginning. But now here you go. You're here, so we got some time.
I thought it was a great idea for the district to do this, and I think maybe more often, more of these people.
Very good. You know, I'll say I do this all over the place, all over the state. This is a phenomenal turnout. It just shows how much a community like this cares about itself and about its neighbors. So it's very unusual, and I think it's a wonderful thing for all of you.
Next time we'll get a band and have a party.
Yeah, then you won't hear my little speaker.
Board here.
Yeah, they were limited to 2, and you got 2 just so some of you don't know. Scott is here, and that was their limit. Anyone else? Yes?
Yeah, I'm concerned about what kind of, in order to have a sustainable water supply, which means you can continue indefinitely, not just for a period of time, but indefinitely with the amount of water you have to know how much water you're going to have in the very leanest of conditions. The worst drought years, you're going to have enough water to cover what's necessary. But the old private company, very poor records were kept of water use out of the various wells and stuff like that over time. And I understand there's no decent real data on like the drought of the mid-70s to late 70s, which would be a pretty good baseline. Are we doing things now in the lower rain years and so forth? Like we've had a couple of drier than usual years. Are we doing things now to measure water supply in the watershed?
Yes, we have an extensive monitoring program, and like you say, we rely mainly on information since 2003. There is some information available that was taken beforehand, but that's a simple production well measurement. We have an extensive groundwater monitoring program for the aquifers that we access in place, and taking a very close look at how much water is taken out, and are gaining more and more knowledge about how drought-proof our sources are. Infinitive, you have to look at the ocean and desalination to get that.
Would this then inform the passing out of the permits or the allotment of permits?
Yes. In essence, the permit that was issued considered a tremendous amount of water for drought purposes. Essentially, the capacity that we have available was slashed in half. We were working on the permit side only with 50% of our capacity.
Wasn't there a study done of groundwater conditions and aquifers prior to the release of more permits? Maybe 6-7 years ago, it seemed like I saw something like that.
Yes, but that was for other aquifers. We have access to one of the aquifers that was considered, the Airport Aquifer, but not the aquifers that we're accessing in the upper areas with Montara.
Any other comments, questions, open issues?
Good cookies.
Yeah, they look pretty fancy. Thank Clemmers, those do look like fantastic. Well then, I'm going to say thank you very much, everybody, for coming out tonight. I know the district really appreciates it. If you do have any notes, please bring them forward, email, call.